Chapter 37, Into the Summer, 4. Through Kongsu-chan, I received the last job of this summer. It was to escort the head of the Dongping Merchant Guild, 1. They asked for 1 day of protection during an important contract signing. The payment was 2,000 taels. It was a considerable amount for just 1 day's work. It seemed someone was likely targeting them. Well, isn't that why they're paying us money to take on this job? I decided to take the job. Before leaving, my father only said this: "Don't be overconfident because of your previous success. Accidents always happen when you're complacent." Yes, father. I'll keep that in mind. My father is an upright person to the point of being old-fashioned. I like this aspect of him. On the other hand, my mother was completely carefree. Make a lot of money, son. How could a mother not be worried? Rather, it was sad to see her trying to hide her true feelings with such a casual response. Yes, mother. I'll buy you a gift when I return. Make it an expensive one. Ha ha, all right. When I arrived at the Dongping Merchant Guild with the squad members, the atmosphere was very heavy. Swordsmen and servants belonging to the Beck family were guarding the young family mansion, armed with weapons and clubs. When we arrived, everyone seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Baekyo, too, the head of Dongping Merchant Guild who had called us, ran out to greet us in his socks as if heavenly gods had descended. Welcome. I'm so glad you've come. Why is the security so tight? Look at this. What he showed me was a threatening letter. It contained a brutal message saying they would kill his entire family if he didn't stop the contract. Who sent this? There's someone who's after this contract. They're trying to push me out and steal the deal. Could it just be a simple threat? To scare you into backing down. But Baekyo shook his head. That bastard's cousin is the head of the Seojong Association, 3. The Seojong Association? The Seojong Association is a well-known black society for Ug in the area. They named themselves the Seojong Association because the group follows their leader, Seo Ryang, 5. Black societies were groups of street thugs, not martial arts sects. They were people who mainly made a living by interfering with the rights of brothels and taverns and extorting money. Now that we're here, you don't need to fear a mere black society. You shouldn't underestimate a black society. They're very cruel bastards. And there are a lot of them. Moreover, I've heard that some of them have learned martial arts. I understand. Please prepare to depart. I'm counting on you all. After leaving the room, I immediately called for Guanhui. It seems we'll be dealing with black society thugs. Tell everyone to prepare mentally, as they might come in large numbers. Understood. The agreed place for the contract signing was about 2 hours away by carriage from Baekyo's house. The Dongping Merchant Guild swordsmen guarded the house, and only our sword squad escorted the carriage carrying the company head as we departed. It was almost expected that there would be interference. I concentrated all my senses. If they attacked from afar with arrows, there could be casualties. The recent missions were experiences I couldn't have imagined when I was the alliance leader. I had heard that black societies sometimes interfered in trading company contracts involving large sums of money, but this was the first time I was experiencing it directly. Baekyo spoke to me through the carriage window. I heard you took care of the Wild Beast Squad. That's right. Impressive. The Wild Beast Squad was a notorious bandit group. So you don't need to worry too much. The martial artist sitting next to you right now is the one who took down 4 of the Wild Beast Squad members. Oh. Is that so? The person sitting next to Baekyo was Guangdu. Don't worry. We'll protect you. Guangdu deepened his voice. So you placed a master next to me? Guangdu flinched. That wasn't why he was riding in the carriage. He had started practicing horseback riding, but he wasn't skilled enough yet, so we put him in the carriage. Guangdu had insisted on riding a horse with just a few days of practice. He wanted to show Du Sun a cool image of him riding a horse, but it would be fortunate if he didn't fall off. Du Sun still hadn't attached the tassel to her sword. As we were crossing a wide plain, the ambushers revealed themselves. At first, when about 30 men blocked our way, no one was surprised. But they kept appearing. 10 more, 20 more, 30 more. They kept appearing from all directions. They were holding all kinds of weapons. Their numbers exceeded 100, then 200, and reached 300. We were surrounded by Black Society thugs on all sides. When 300 men armed with swords and spears surrounded us, the pressure was truly immense. Baekyo, who had been looking outside through the carriage window, was terrified. "Oh no! We're done for." "Don't worry." Guangdu's voice trembled severely, which only heightened the fear. Following Guan Huai's instructions, the squad members formed a circular formation around the carriage. Though they had experienced a few real battles, they couldn't help but be tense in the face of these overwhelming numbers. There's no way one Black Society could have this many members. They must have scraped together thugs from various places after hearing we had been called. Still, Baekyo was a person with a conscience. "I'll give up the deal. There's no need for you to die over this." Baekyo stuck his head out of the window and shouted loudly. "I'll give up the contract and go back, so please let us return." Then, the crowd of people parted left and right, and a man who looked like the leader walked out. Given that these were Black Society thugs, he must be Seo Ryang of the Seo Jong Association. How could such a wise person be so stubborn? I was foolishly stubborn. "Please just let us go back." "It's not that simple." Seo Ryang walked forward. As he moved, the men surrounding us approached closer. As the thugs came closer, the squad members tensed up. They wouldn't be a match in one-on-one fights, but their numbers were too great. Moreover, many of them were carrying long spears. The fear arose that if they all rushed in and stabbed wildly with those spears, martial arts skills wouldn't matter and we'd be helpless. Seo Ryang, who had approached to about 10 paces away, spoke intimidatingly. "How can we trust you? You might just go back like this and set up another appointment tonight. These busy gentlemen can't gather again, you know." "No, I'll give up cleanly. I'll even write a pledge if you want." "What use is a piece of paper?" "Then what would you like me to do?" "How about cutting off one of your hands before you go?" "What?" Baekyo turned pale. Seo Ryang laughed loudly. "Ha ha ha. I'm joking, just joking. You're more cowardly than you look." Then Seo Ryang stopped laughing and coldly threatened. "But if we have to come out again, it won't end with just one hand. Now, you're going back, right? Open the way for them." He didn't forget to add a word to us as well. "If you act arrogant carrying swords and calling yourselves martial artists, you'll end up with your limbs cut off and dead. Get lost now. This gentleman is specially sparing your lives." The Black Society thugs laughed loudly from all directions. The Black Society members who had surrounded the back opened a path. Baekyo looked at me and said, "Let's go back quickly." When I showed no reaction, Baekyo became urgent. "Let's go," I said. "If those bastards change their minds, you'll all die too. Hurry." I finally opened my mouth. "If you're so afraid of those bastards, why didn't you hire them in the first place?" "What do you mean?" "If you hired us, you should trust us." "What?" I looked at Seo Ryang and spoke coldly. "You dog-like scum of a thug. Do we look like people who'll come and go as you say? You're asking how a former alliance leader can use such language? Who were the enemies I faced? If I think about the curses I heard from all those evil people of the demon cult and evil sects. If I unleashed just those, I could make everyone shudder." Seo Ryang looked at his subordinate next to him and asked, "What's this greenhorn is saying? It seems he's saying he wants to fight us. Do you have dick stuck in your eyes?" Laughter erupted from the surroundings. "If you wish to die, we should grant it." As Seo Ryang drew his sword, the Black Society thugs all aimed their weapons. He was thoroughly relying on the number 300. I ordered Guan Huai. "Form a semicircle using the carriage as a wall and protect Mr. Beck." "Yes." "Watch carefully. I'll show you how to deal with scum like this. I'll show you how real martial artists differ from such trash." Chang. I drew my sword smoothly and walked out slowly. The Black Society thugs tensed slightly at my composure. How do you fight in a situation like this? It's simple. Tartartuk. I charged towards Seo Ryang. As always in many versus many battles, you need to take the enemy leader's head first. The men rushed forward in a group. My sword cleaved the air cleanly. Swish! Slash! The neck of the man who blocked me first was cut off. My sword slashed diagonally again. The body of the man following was cut in that same direction. Seeing a person's neck and body being cut right before their eyes, the surrounding thugs were terrified. Spears flew in from all directions. I dodged the spears by swaying my body this way and that. My movements were precise. Dodge and cut, dodge and cut. 1 slash for each man. In an instant, over 10 men fell as corpses. Rather, it was the thugs who were in chaos. I dodged what needed to be dodged and cut only what needed to be cut. I was even more disciplined than when facing a single opponent. Every time my sword swung, someone inevitably died. 10 more fell, bringing the death toll to 20. Seo Ryang shouted in panic. Stop him! Kill him! The panicked voice of the leader further lowered the morale of his subordinates. The order he should have given was this. Kill Baekyo! That would have divided my attention. Well, the result would have been the same anyway. In any case, Seo Ryang wasn't someone with such tactics. In his panic, he was half out of his mind now. Thugs rushed in from all directions. But it was they who were dying. No matter how many there were, they were just black society thugs after all. Even the better ones had at best learned martial arts at the level of our squad members. However, I didn't intend to kill them all. Stepping on the back of a man who fell with his chest split open, I leaped powerfully. I passed over dozens of men at once and landed. Seo Ryang was visible about 10 paces ahead. As I approached right in front of him, he shouted as if having a fit. Stop him! Stop him! The men blocking the front were only about 10. If those in front couldn't stop me, how could these? Swish! Slash! My sword sprayed blood in the air. As 5 of the men fell, the remaining 5 stepped back. Stop him! You bastards! Stop him! But no one dared to step forward. They all had faces filled with terror. I wasn't even breathing hard. Seo Ryang stepped back and said, We'll leave now. So, I threw myself towards him. To subdue the remaining men, I couldn't leave him alive. He drew his sword and swung it widely at me. It might have worked on his subordinates, but it was useless against me. Swish! Slash! As I passed by him, Seo Ryang's movement stopped abruptly. A red line appeared on his neck, and then... thud! His head rolled on the ground. Splash! Seo Ryang, with his head cut off, fell while spurting a fountain of blood. Everyone froze watching Seo Ryang's head rolling on the ground. Slash! Shaking the blood off my sword, I spoke softly. Put down what's in your hands and kneel. Though my voice was soft because I infused it with inner energy, everyone heard it clearly. They all looked at each other, not knowing what to do. I walked steadily towards the man closest to me. Oh my! Please spare me. The man threw down his weapon and knelt. That was the start. One after another, they threw down their weapons and knelt. Please spare us. Please, spare our lives. Even if 300 rabbits gather, they can't catch a tiger. Moreover, these were back alley thugs who valued their own lives more than loyalty. I shouted to the squad members. From now on, cut down anyone who opens their eyes or raises their head. Yes. The squad members shouted energetically. The Black Society thugs all closed their eyes and lowered their heads at once. When nearly 300 men knelt and bowed their heads simultaneously, it was quite a spectacle in itself. I walked towards the squad members and said, This is what it means to be a martial artist. We are called martial artists because we are people like this. Understand? Yes. The faces of the squad members were filled with pride and a desire to become stronger. Especially Guangdu and Guanhui had dreamlike expressions in their eyes. Yes, this was the appearance I had hoped for. This was the influence I wanted them to receive. Even if 3,000 of these thugs gathered, they should never be afraid of or turn their backs on mere Black Society scum. Later, each of the squad members will be able to demonstrate this kind of power. I sincerely look forward to that day. Baekyo was staring at me with his eyes wide open and his mouth agape. He was so shocked he couldn't say a word. I smiled and said, Let's go sign that contract. The man who died was Seo Ryang of the Seo Jong Association. Those who died protecting him at the end were the deputy leaders and executives. The Seo Jong Association was effectively destroyed. We thoroughly frightened the remaining thugs before releasing them. It was a direct threat that if we heard they were involved in such evil deeds again, we would rush over and kill them. Of course, most of them will probably return to the back alleys, but for the time being, they won't even leave their homes. That day's contract was signed without incident. Baekyo gave me money. I've put in extra as a special bonus. I won't decline. I accepted without hesitation, as it probably wasn't money he was forcing himself to give. When I opened the envelope, there were 5 notes worth 1,000 taels each. He had added 3,000 taels more than the original amount. Thank you. We'll be leaving now. If there's ever such a situation again, I'll definitely call for you. Please do. But by then, the same amount of money won't be enough. Our price will have increased at least tenfold. Chapter 38. Where did this wind come from? 1. After eliminating the Seojong Association, our sword squad's morale skyrocketed. However, it didn't become as much of a topic externally as when we eliminated the Wild Beast squad. After all, since the opponent was a black society, it was known merely as stopping the Seojong Association, a black society. That wasn't bad either. It was a time when internal substance was more important than external reputation. This incident strengthened the cohesion within the sword squad. There are many factors that bind an organization together, but among them, the role and appearance of the leader have a significant impact. When a leader demonstrates strong political power or shows powerful strength as before, the core of the organization becomes solid, and the internal structure becomes even stronger. Following someone worthy of following was, in itself, a worthwhile endeavor. Guanhui came to relay some news. He said that when the squad members gather, they talk about wanting to become like the squad leader. He also mentioned that the number of people joining the Dawn training had increased significantly. It seems the image I showed this time has become a milestone for the squad members to strive towards. 7 or 8 more people came to learn flying dagger techniques. Including those who learned before, almost all the members had come to learn. I gladly taught them the flying dagger techniques as well. When there are people who come to learn with enthusiasm, there are bound to be those who want to do it later. I have no ill feelings towards the few who didn't come to learn. They might not want to learn, and that's fine. Both the learners and the teacher need to have an open mind. Guangdu was really working hard. Even with the flying dagger technique, though he started later than Guanhui, he was showing faster progress. It wasn't just because of effort. It's not that Guanhui didn't try hard. Guangdu's innate talent was just more outstanding. After learning for just a few days, when Guangdu threw 3 daggers from 20 paces away, one would accurately hit the target. At this rate, it seemed like all 3 would hit within a month or 2. However, not everything was going smoothly. The incident I had been worried about finally happened. A fight broke out between a martial artist from our small sword squad and one from the existing sword squad. By the time I arrived, they had already fought once. It seemed they had exchanged blows, but our side had more visible facial injuries. Now they were engaged in a verbal argument as squad members from both sides came to stop them. Is being a senior all that matters? This bastard is still at it. Strictly speaking, you're not even our senior, are you? This brash fellow's name was Young Ji-yu, 1. As a former escort, he was quite old and had a rough personality from his long experience in the escort agency. However, when I appeared, the rowdy young Ji-yu bowed his head and became docile. First, let me say one thing, that person is indeed your senior. They are the main sword squad of the Biok clan, and we are the small sword squad. Understand? Young Ji-yu answered weakly, yes. At those words, the expressions of the main sword squad martial artists softened slightly. These aspects are very sensitive, so they need to be addressed clearly. What did you fight about? Young Ji-yu hesitated to answer. Do I need to ask twice? No. I was wrong. I didn't ask who was wrong, I asked why you fought. Well. I was walking while looking elsewhere and bumped shoulders with that person. So it was your fault for not looking where you were going? Yes. Then why did you fight? I was about to apologize when he cursed at me first. This time, I asked the martial artist from the main sword squad. Is that true? It wasn't that serious a curse. It was just a reflexive word that slipped out. I looked back at young Ji-yu. That's what he says. Young Ji-yu sighed and said. When I saw his face then, he looked like the forest bandit who killed my comrade in the past. At this, everyone watching made expressions of dismay. Especially the martial artist who fought with Yang Jiyu made a completely incredulous expression. Isn't this guy crazy? Honestly, he deserves to hear such words. But in Yang Gu's slumped shoulders as he hung his head low, I saw the grief that only someone who has lost a comrade can understand. I looked at the martial artist who had fought with Yang Jiyu and said, "What should we do? Do you want to fight more with this crazy guy? Or should I tell him to apologize?" "No, it's fine." The martial artist turned away. He called Yang Jiyu crazy, but after hearing about the lost comrade, he probably couldn't say anything more. Everyone dispersed, leaving only Yang Jiyu and me. What kind of friend was he? He was my peer who became an escort with me. I see. That friend. Yang Jiyu let out a long sigh and continued with difficulty. Died because of me. That day, I was too tired and couldn't wake up. My friend, thinking of me, told me to sleep more and stood guard alone. Yang Jiyu couldn't continue speaking. He lowered his head. He clenched both fists tightly, and his shoulders and back trembled slightly. He was forcibly holding back tears. I looked up at the sky. A clear sky without a single cloud. How can it be so clear without even a single cloud, let alone rain? Yang Jiyu spoke with a moist voice. I killed him. Staring at the fellow who was quietly hanging his head, I said. Maybe so. Yang Gu's trembling intensified. I spoke calmly. You, I, or others might think so. But just one person, that friend, wouldn't think that way. A tear fell from Yang Gu's eye. I saw the tear fall to the ground but pretended not to notice and spoke. It's not polite to hold onto a crying man. You made a mistake, so you need to be punished, right? Yes. I'll accept it willingly. Run 50 laps around the training ground without using inner energy. Yes. Yang Jiyu ran towards the training ground. Although I understood him, the reason I punished him like this was for his own good. When they hear that he was properly punished, not only the martial artist he fought with but also their comrades will let this incident pass. This group wasn't one that wouldn't understand this much. I watched Yang Jiyu running around the training ground for a moment. What is he thinking now? He's probably running while thinking about his dead friend. I know better than anyone what that feeling is like. Because I lost so many people in that long war. That unbearable sense of loss, and the miserable experience of gradually becoming numb as I lost more and more people. I hope that someday Yang Jiyu will come to me and ask to have a drink together. I hope his heart can be eased a little if that happens. Kong Su-chan came to me with a happy face. We've had a big success from an unexpected investment. We expected 1,200 taels, but we've made a profit of 4,500 taels. Considering the additional income from the Dongping Merchant Guild earlier, I think we can recruit not just 40 but 80 new members next year. Oh, that's really good news. I shared in his joy. But apart from the joy, I didn't accept that proposal. However, I still plan to recruit only 40 more squad members as originally planned. At my words, Kong Su-chan gave a strange smile. Why are you smiling? I'm relieved that you're not being greedy. I came running here happily, but I guess I was hoping you'd say that. That's what I should be saying to him. For not making risky investments and steadily increasing our money. There's a saying that an old horse asks for more beans. It means that as one gets older, one becomes more greedy. During my time as Alliance leader, I saw countless examples of elderly greed. The elders of the Council of Elders were prime examples. Desires that I couldn't understand no matter how much I thought about it. Since I was of a similar age, I was wary of becoming like that myself. I took them as negative examples. The desire to improve and greed are different things. I will not be greedy, but I will improve. I urged Kong Su-chan. Not to make too risky investments. To always make stable, diversified investments. It's okay to go slowly, one step at a time. The important thing is to keep moving forward. Kong Su-chan bowed politely. I'll keep that in mind. I feel that the relationship between him and me is also improving little by little. Under the last rays of August sun, just a few days before September, the squad members were training, swinging their swords. I was watching their training from the side. It's been 5 months since the sword squad was formed. Thanks to my intensive management, our small sword squad has completely settled in. To an outsider, it would look like a squad that had been established for years. In reality, they were demonstrating skills and unity comparable to a squad that had been around for several years. After the Wild Beast Squad and Dongping Merchant Guild missions, our Sword Squad completed 3 more missions. I went along for one of them, and for the other 2, I sent only the squad members. Although a few members were injured during the missions handled by the squad members alone, they completed them successfully. Of course, we also earned money. The money earned from these 3 missions was 4,500 taels. Not a small amount. Besides the money, these real-world missions were a great stimulus for the squad members. Through experiencing real situations, the squad members felt a sense of belonging and realized the need to improve their skills. They acutely felt that in the martial world, those without skills die first. Their growing respect for me, increasing day by day, didn't need to be mentioned. My personal achievements weren't bad either. In the 5 months since I started seriously accumulating inner energy, I've built up 4 years' worth of inner energy. Now I have inner energy equivalent to 24 years. It's 36 years until I reach my goal of 60 years of inner energy. At this rate, I can fill it in 4 more years. If I'm lucky and get even 1 root of elixir, it could be much sooner. Not only my inner energy but also my physical strength has improved incomparably to before, and I can now freely use the early 3 forms of the soul-chasing Azura sword arts, my unique martial art, along with the White Moon sword technique, my family's martial art. Despite these achievements, sometimes I feel self-deprecating. Now, no one in the inns talks about my death anymore. While it seems natural, I feel an inexplicable bitterness. Yes, fine. That's how everyone forgets. I try to understand with this mindset, but there's something I really can't understand. Ma Bongi has become the Martial Righteous Alliance leader, but not a single person seems worried. It's so peaceful that it's almost unbelievable. The martial world I see as a former Alliance leader is this different from what ordinary people see. I decided to interpret all of these things positively. The past Cheon Ha Jin is truly dead, I told myself. I am now truly Biok Ri Dan. Yes, in my later years, I lived like a fossil trapped in a mold. Now I must live anew. The wind that has blown in is now cool. Summer is ending. The signs of the storm appeared in an unexpected form. Young minor faction leader, Zhong Yo, came to see me secretly. Someone from the Heavenly Blade sect has come down this time. From the Heavenly Blade sect. Ma Zhongsu, too. One of Ma Bongi's sons. He had so many children that I couldn't remember who this one was. Anyway, one thing I could understand was that the nature of their internal successor fight must have changed. If one becomes the official successor, they wouldn't inherit the Heavenly Blade sect, but the Martial Righteous Alliance. It must have become more fierce and brutal. It seems Ma Zhongsu met with the Shandong branch leader and asked him to gather all the clan leaders here. For what reason? He didn't state the reason, but Zhong Yo trailed off, and I nodded. It's unlikely to be for a good purpose. As always, if the purpose were good, there would be no need for such a dubious method. Ma Bongi's faction was already exerting influence in the martial world. The Shandong branch leader refused. He refused. Yes. What kind of person is the Shandong branch leader? As far as I know, he's quite an upright person. Yes, how could all the Martial Righteous Alliance martial artists be corrupt like Gong Zhong? Afterwards, Ma Zhongsu came to our clan. He pressured us to hold a banquet. After saying he'd contact us again, I rushed here immediately. What should we do? After pondering for a moment, I said, tell him you'll hold it. If not the Young Minor faction, the next in line would be the Song clan. It's a problem whether we refuse or not. It's better to handle it at the level of Young Minor faction, where I can intervene to some extent. Understood. Have you firmly grasped control of the Young Minor faction? Yes. You don't need to worry. Next time, you don't need to come in person. Send your most trustworthy person. If it's someone you trust, I'll trust them too. I know well that a single word like this can greatly change a person's heart. With one word, you can turn tofu like loyalty into steel, or make existing affection drop away. The core of politics is words. If you need anything, please contact me anytime. I will. Until I first established Zhong Yo as the sect leader, I didn't plan to actively utilize him. But looking at the current situation, the importance of Young Minor faction was growing. Just this incident alone was proving to be of great help. After sending him back, I thought about this incident. Is it a sign of a typhoon? Or just a passing wind? We'll soon find out what kind it is. Chapter 39. Where did this wind come from? 2. The next day, Yang Minor faction sent people to each clan. The targets were the top 20 ranked sects in Shandong. Even without clear criteria for ranking, due to the competitive nature of the martial world, rankings inevitably formed. This was true not only for Shandong but for other regions as well. Of course, an invitation came to our family too. Despite our decline, we were still within the top 20. The invitation stated that a banquet would be held at Yang Minor faction in 3 days. In addition to urging attendance, it mentioned that an esteemed guest from the Heavenly Blade sect would be attending. Given Ma Bongi's position as Martial Righteous Alliance leader, this could only be interpreted as a command to attend. Father tilted his head with an expression of uncertainty. I don't understand why they're calling us. Neither Yang Minor faction nor the Heavenly Blade sect were organizations that Father viewed favorably. He vaguely sensed that something undesirable was about to happen. It seems the person coming from the Heavenly Blade sect is the key, Mother said. Father nodded in agreement with Mother's words. It seems so. The Heavenly Blade sect originally based its power in Guizhou. They've never expanded into Shandong before. We'll find out their intentions when we attend the gathering. Listening to their conversation, I finally spoke up. I'd like to accompany Father as well. You? I should learn by observing. Though Father tried not to show it outwardly, joy was evident on his face. All right, let's go together. Mother looked at me with a pleased expression, then strode over and hugged me tightly. I'm proud of you, my son. Sometimes I'm startled by this intense display of affection, but it's still good. Mother's embrace was incomparably warm. 3 days later, Father and I arrived at Yang Minor faction. Not just us, but all the leaders of the top 20 ranked sects in Shandong attended the gathering. Yang Minor faction leader Zhongyo was greeting the invited guests at the entrance of the main hall. Zhongyo greeted our father respectfully. It's an honor to meet the esteemed clan leader Biok of great virtue. Father also maintained proper etiquette. I've heard that the new sect leader's reputation is resounding throughout Shandong. Congratulations on becoming the sect leader. Although formal congratulatory letters had already been sent between sects, this was the first direct meeting since Zhongyo became the faction leader. It's just baseless rumors. I'm at a loss for words, receiving congratulations from clan leader Biok. Thank you. Father was flustered by Zhongyo's excessive courtesy. Although they had suffered the misfortune of losing their previous sect leader, Yang Minor faction was still the top sect in Shandong. Of course, Zhongyo's polite attitude was because of me. Who would dare to treat us rudely with me standing behind? Zhongyo also addressed me. I've heard that young Master Biok's small sword squad has been making quite a name for itself lately. We've had some successes due to good fortune. How can matters of the martial world be determined by luck? There's no need to be so modest. Thank you. Zhongyo said to Father. You truly have an excellent son. Father smiled at those words. He must have been especially pleased because there were many people lined up behind us. What could be more joyful than having your child praised in front of others? Father and I entered the main hall. Many guests had already arrived. Father introduced them to me one by one. It was an opportunity to memorize the faces of the leaders of the top 20 ranked sects in Shandong. I put my memory to good use after a long time. I didn't miss a single word Father said. That's how I remembered the faces of all who attended. Song Wugayong of the Song clan arrived a bit late. If I had known you were coming, I would have brought Warren along. He seemed regretful, but I just smiled. All the invited people had gathered. They clustered here and there, murmuring and speculating about today's gathering. No one knew exactly what it was about. After about half an incense stick's time, the door opened and Zhongyo entered. 4 people followed behind him. A man who looked to be in his mid-20s walked in confidently at the front. Judging by his attire and demeanor, he seemed to be Ma Zhongsu. I was inwardly surprised at how much younger he was than I expected. I wondered how old that old man Ma Bongi was when he was still siring children. Of the 3 people following behind him like escorts, I recognized 2. First, the white-haired old man was none other than the Flower Fan Elder, 1. He used an ornate iron fan decorated with flowers as his unique weapon, and had once tried to enter the Martial Righteous Alliance's Council of Elders but failed. At that time, I didn't approve because of his temperament. He was skilled in politics and agitation, and had a strong desire for power. Though his personality might not be great, he was certainly skilled. More than a few masters had their skulls cracked by underestimating his weapon just because it was a fan decorated with flowers. Even with my 24 years of inner energy, I shouldn't let my guard down against him. Old Ginger is spicier. The hidden moves they've prepared are truly fitting as final moves. Anyway, it wasn't out of place for him to be associating with the Heavenly Blade sect. He had always been a power seeker. Rather, it seemed quite natural. The man in his mid-40s next to him was a master from within the Heavenly Blade sect. His name was Saigon, too. He was one of the 2 masters who competed for the Heavenly Blade sect when the Martial Righteous Alliance once hosted a friendly martial arts competition. I still remembered him as a person who used a truly impressive sword technique. Since that was more than 7 or 8 years ago, his skills must have improved even more by now. Though younger in age, I thought he was a greater master than the Flower Fan Elder. The last person was a beauty whose age was difficult to guess. She looked young from one perspective, but quite mature from another. One thing was certain, she too exuded the aura of a considerable martial artist. However, she wasn't carrying a sword or saber. Unless the belt around her waist was a soft sword, she must be a practitioner of fist techniques. There was something strangely intriguing about her. Ma Jongsu's aura was just as extraordinary as these 3 remarkable people. It was incomparable to the young talents gathered at the recent Shandong banquet. He was clearly showing that he was different from the young ones in Shandong. Nevertheless, my first impression of him was very bad. First of all, I didn't like his eyes. Though he was the same age as Guangdu, his eyes looked like those of a man in his 40s. They weren't clear and showed signs of having weathered all sorts of hardships. The people gathered tensed up at their appearance. It was a moment when they truly realized that someone had come down from the Heavenly Blade sect. Though they were all leaders of their respective sects, there was no one here who could match the Flower Fan Elder or Saigon in a one-on-one fight. Being overwhelmed by their aura, they naturally became subdued. After Zhongyou gave a brief greeting, he introduced Ma Jongsu. Ma Jongsu stepped up onto the platform. It's truly an honor to meet the heroes of Shandong. I also thank the young minor faction leader for arranging this gathering. He gestured toward the young minor faction leader as if introducing him, naturally inducing applause. Ma Jongsu was confident and self-assured even in front of the 20 clan leaders. And he was courteous. The reason I've arranged this gathering today is that I have something to tell you. After gathering everyone's attention for a moment, he opened his mouth. Truly unexpected words flowed out. I'm thinking of opening a small martial arts school here in Shandong. Everyone was shocked. A heavy silence fell over the hall. They must all be thinking similarly. No matter how many children the Martial Righteous Alliance leader had, he was still clearly of the Alliance leader's bloodline. The first thought that comes to mind is it really just a small martial arts school? Would the flesh and blood of the Alliance leader come all the way to Shandong just to establish a small martial arts school? Even if we give him the benefit of the doubt, is this matter significant enough to gather everyone here? It could be an excuse to establish a sect under the guise of a martial arts school. In other words, it's the Heavenly Blade sect's expansion into Shandong. Since directly establishing a sect would face opposition from the local sects, they've come forward saying they'll establish a martial arts school, considering public opinion in the martial world. If not that, then there must be some other hidden motive. I was hoping you could all help me a little. The atmosphere became even more subdued. Depending on how one interprets the request for help, it could be understood differently, but ultimately it could only be interpreted as a demand for money. At that moment, Guak Tai, 3, the leader of the Blue Pine sect, 4, stepped forward. Ha ha ha, of course we should help you. As he came forward laughing, his close friend Suk Mundu, 5, the leader of the 9 Dragons clan, 6, joined him in easing the tense atmosphere. Wouldn't it be a great blessing for our Shandong if Master Ma comes down to establish a foundation here? That's right. We welcome you to Shandong. Guak Tai and Suk Mundu exchanged words back and forth. I could tell. Before this gathering, the Blue Pine sect leader had already met with Ma Jongsu and promised to support him. Then Guak Tai must have pulled in Suk Mundu. Of course, the order could have been reversed with Suk Mundu pulling in Guak Tai. Except for those two, the atmosphere was cold. Ma Jongsu looked around the hall once, then fixed his gaze on our direction. Father and Song Woo-gyeong had stern expressions like the other leaders. Isn't that Master Byok of the Byok clan sword manor over there? Ma Jong-soo suddenly singled out my father. Father was slightly taken aback as he recognized his face, even though they had never met before. That's right. I'm the one leading the Byok clan sword manor. Your expression doesn't look good. Is there something uncomfortable? Asked so politely, there was no other way to answer. I have some indigestion, so I'm not feeling well. Oh dear. I see. Ma Jong-soo came down from the platform and strode over in our direction. It felt like an ominous energy was approaching. He came right up to Father and took something out of his bosom. It was a small medicine bottle the size of a finger. If you drink this, you'll feel better. Father was flustered. No, actually, I was more flustered. How could he drink something without knowing what it was? But it was also difficult to refuse when the other party was offering goodwill. While Father was at a loss for what to do, I clearly saw it. A certain malice lurking in Ma Jong-soo's smiling eyes. It was something that ordinary people could never notice. I could tell because I had experienced all sorts of villains. The emotion I felt from his smile was intense coldness. Ma Jong-soo exclaimed in surprise. Oh my! I've made a big mistake. In my haste, I took out the wrong medicine. This medicine was a deadly poison. I didn't bring the antidote, so if you had drunk it, you would have been in big trouble. The atmosphere became even heavier, and Father's expression was the same. Ma Jong-soo said admiringly. As expected of the leader of the Byok clan sword manor, who once had a great reputation. To survive long in the martial world, one must always be cautious and careful. I've learned a great lesson today. He spoke with such a polite attitude that it was confusing whether this was a mistake or a threat. But this was clearly a threat. That he could poison you if you mess with him. But his threat didn't end there. He glanced at me. Is this your son? He's tall and handsome. Ha ha ha. Father's expression hardened even more, and his body trembled slightly. After talking about deadly poison and whatnot, the reason for pointing me out was obvious without asking. That he could kill even family members if provoked. Song Woo-gyeong, who was standing next to us, quickly changed the subject. So, where are you thinking of building the martial arts school? He judged that if Father burst out in anger, we would be at a disadvantage. Ma Jong-soo bowed his head politely to Father and apologized. I apologize once again for my earlier mistake. Then, as he returned to his place, he said, I plan to build the martial arts school on the outskirts of Jinan. I intend to start with a modest size and gradually expand. He began to talk about the details of the martial arts school. Song Woo-gyeong grasped Father's hand once under the table. It meant he had done well to endure. Father silently emptied his wine cup. I could tell. The bastard had made an example of our father to threaten everyone here. And in such a cowardly and dirty way. No matter how Father had answered, the result wouldn't have changed. The bastard had come intending to sacrifice Father to dominate the atmosphere from the start. My expression remained impassive, but my heart turned ice cold. This son of a bitch dares to mess with our father? And even dragging me into it? Chapter 40. Where did this wind come from? 3. Specific amounts were determined. 5,000 taels for ranks 1 to 3, 3,000 taels for ranks 4 to 10, and 1,000 taels for the rest up to rank 20. The money was set according to each sect's ranking. The Blue Pine sect leader Guaktai and Nine Dragons clan leader Sukmundu took the lead in this matter. It seemed as if the two had met with various families to discuss and determine the amounts, but I was certain. These must be amounts predetermined by Ma Jong-soo. Just looking at how smoothly things were progressing made that clear. It was by no means a small amount. Altogether, it amounted to tens of thousands of taels. An even bigger problem was that this demand might not end with just one time. Since Ma Jong-soo didn't directly demand the money, his crime couldn't be pinned down. On the surface, he had merely greeted everyone and asked for help. The clans naturally held grievances. Not only did they have to pay money out of pocket, but more than that, their pride was hurt. They must have wondered how he could treat them like this. But they couldn't openly oppose it either. In such matters, the first person to step forward usually becomes the scapegoat and gets beaten down. Unless they were determined to confront the Heavenly Blade sect head-on, they had no choice but to go along with it. Because this was something unimaginable when the previous alliance leader was around, everyone was at a loss for how to handle the situation. Regarding this matter, Song Wu Guyong said, "This is a natural disaster. We can only sigh while watching the rain pour down." Father didn't say anything in response. Late at night, feeling stuffy in my room, I went out for a walk. The inner courtyard of the Biok clan sword manor was well maintained. The trees and flowers were growing beautifully, and I was told that the person managing this place was the chief steward. Even though he seemed to just bark orders, he had such a meticulous side. As I was strolling through the garden, I saw someone standing ahead. It was Father. "Father. It's late, what brings you out?" "I couldn't sleep." "Why aren't you resting, Father?" "I can't sleep either." Father looked very troubled. It must be because of that day's incident. He had been humiliated in front of his child. Parents around the world don't want to show weakness in front of their children. He must be upset. More than any other hardship Father had experienced until now. On top of that, Father had to say something he didn't want to. "We've decided to give support money too." Father's voice trembled slightly. I understood why Father made this decision. It wasn't because he was afraid of the threat the bastard made to Father. He wasn't the type to yield to such threats. But he must have been worried about the final threat involving me. He was concerned that if he alone stood firm while everyone else paid, I might suffer the consequences. I smiled brightly and said, "You did well." Surprised by my reaction, Father asked, "Do you really think so?" "Yes. Isn't it in the art of war? When the enemy is strong, it's wise to retreat for a moment. It's not that your will and intention are retreating, is it? It's just a tactical withdrawal." I wasn't just saying this to comfort Father. It was my sincere opinion, and it applied to me as well. I'm grateful that you think that way. Because I respected Father. I couldn't forgive that bastard even more. "Father, please endure. I will definitely take this revenge." If you say it's an emotional decision related to Father, then yes, I admit it. Given how upset I felt that day, I wanted to put on a mask and go cut off his head right away. But that shouldn't be done. Assassinating him should be the last resort. First, realistically, the martial arts skills of the Flower Fan Elder and Saigon guarding him were not to be underestimated. Dealing with one would be difficult enough, but they also had a female master whose identity was unknown. And Ma Jongsu himself was no pushover. It was a fight where I'd only have a chance if I could separate them and launch a surprise attack. The problem is that even if such a situation could be created, I need to be cautious. First, I needed to find out something. Whether this was Ma Jongsu's personal action or if Ma Bongi ordered it. Even if it was Ma Jongsu's personal action, if I killed him, masters from the Heavenly Blade sect would swarm down like a pack of dogs to find the culprit. And if Ma Bongi ordered it, the problem becomes more complicated. Not only the Heavenly Blade sect's masters but also the Martial Righteous Alliance's masters would join in. That's not what I wanted. Shandong shouldn't attract their attention yet. I need to build up more strength and solidify our foundation. "Father, shall we have a drink?" That night, I drank with Father until late. It was a night when Father, who rarely got drunk, became intoxicated, and I became more sober the more I drank. The money collected from each clan in Shandong was delivered to Ma Jongsu through the Blue Pine sect leader. Ma Jongsu sent gifts to each sect as a token of gratitude. They were valuable gifts worth about half of the money they had paid. Receiving such expensive gifts softened the sharp criticism towards him a bit. Rumors spread that he might not have come just to extort money after all. Of course, the ones actively spreading these rumors were Blue Pine sect leader Guak Tai and Nine Dragons clan leader Suk Mundu. Another rumor circulated. Even if Ma Jongsu establishes a sect under the guise of a martial arts school here, it's something we can't prevent anyway. If it can't be prevented, wouldn't it be better to establish a good relationship with Ma Jongsu? Whether willingly or not, everyone started to be mindful of Ma Jongsu. The bastard was clever. He knew how to use his power and how to handle people. It might not have been just his own idea. Just look at the Flower Fan Elder, who was as cunning as they come. I thought that finding out about Ma Jongsu was the top priority. First, I received 5,000 taels from Kongsu Chan. I had a feeling I would need to use information brokers to handle this matter. He gave me the money he had saved for emergencies without asking about its purpose. Including the money I had, it totaled 6,000 taels. I planned to use this money sparingly. One fortunate point was that the bastard was staying at Young Minor Faction. Young Minor Faction is like my backyard. First, I spent 1,000 taels to buy a high-quality human skin mask. The reason I bought the mask was that I couldn't enter and leave Young Minor Faction showing my face, and I thought I might need a mask at least once. Wearing the mask and a wide-brimmed hat, I went to Young Minor Faction. Since I had sent word in advance, I was able to meet Jong Yo secretly. He's staying in the guest house, so I brought you here. I'm sorry. No, it's fine. Rather, it's a place that's even more carefully prepared than the guest house. This was a small room attached next to the room where Jong Yo's bedroom was. It was originally a place where guard martial artists stayed, but it seems he had moved them elsewhere for a few days. By offering the room next to his own bedroom, he was showing that he fully trusted me. Not only was it cleaned thoroughly, but the teapot and cups on the table, and even the bedding on the bed were all replaced with new ones. He had taken the utmost care for me. What is Ma Jongsu doing? He's meeting people. He's meeting one by one with those who were invited that day. Seeing that he asked for a separate drinking table to be prepared this evening, it seems he plans to meet someone again. He's dividing and conquering. It seems so. It was a very clever method. After thoroughly intimidating them at the first meeting, he's calling them one by one separately to placate them. This means he's not just some amateur thug blindly extorting money. He's definitely someone with a sharp mind and good preparation. What about you? Pardon? What do you mean? The fact that he's staying here openly means he already has some trust in you, doesn't it? He's probably just pretending to trust me. I rather think it's pressure. As if to say, I'm doing this in your home, so don't you dare think of betraying me. He wanted me to understand his true heart. If it weren't for young Master Byok, I would have left the sect and been wandering the martial world. I would have lived recklessly. And then died miserably. I may not be a particularly good person, but I'm not one to forget favors either. I'm grateful if you think that way. It's nothing. Please keep an eye on his movements. Don't worry. This is my home turf. Then I'll be going now. As I was about to get up, he said, and there's one more thing I'd like to tell you. There's an information broker from the Omniscient Association that our sect has been dealing with for a long time. Thinking you might need information about Ma Jongsu, I've already asked him in advance. You can stop by on your way to check. I told him I'd send someone, so you can take this with you. He handed me an iron token, while telling me the location of the nearby Omniscient Association. It was truly thankful. Thanks to Jong Yo, I could get information about the bastard without spending money. In fact, I had been worried about whether I could find out information about him with the remaining 5,000 taels, but that worry disappeared in an instant. Thank you. I'll share any information I hear with you. I'd be grateful if you do that. For now, I'll tell my subordinates that the face behind this mask is my guest. If you show the iron token, you should be able to freely enter and exit the sect anytime. When you come, please stay in this room. Thank you in many ways. He was taking care of me even more than I was considering him. Looking at the long term, it's not a bad investment for him. After all, I was also someone who repays kindness with kindness. Half an incense stick's time later, I was meeting with the Omniscient Association's information broker that Jong Yo had told me about. Of course, I was wearing the human skin mask and a wide-brimmed hat. The man told me what they had investigated. Ma Jongsu is one of Ma Bongi's 22 children. 22? This old lecher really had a lot of children. Among them, 6 are considered potential successors. Among those, the one who has Ma Bongi's exclusive trust is undoubtedly Ma Chiol-gun. He's currently holding the position of temporary sect leader of the Heavenly Blade sect. Ma Jongsu is known to have the lowest chance of becoming the successor among the remaining 5, excluding him. I had not only heard of Ma Chiol-gun but had also met him in person. Unlike Ma Bongi's son, I remember him being intelligent, bright, and having a decent personality. Although he's been pushed out of the successor race, Ma Jongsu has been very talented in various fields since childhood. His martial art skills are no less than the other potential successors. Then why was he pushed out? His mother was a maid of the Heavenly Blade sect. So he had no background. That's right. He's someone who has built up power on his own. In other words, it meant he was someone who had grown up harboring bitterness in his heart. Unfortunately, his mother died in a house fire about 10 years ago. Because she was alone and only gave birth to Ma Jongsu, now Ma Jongsu has no one he can call blood relatives except for Ma Bongi. Do you know the real reason why he came down here? He put forward the pretext of establishing a martial arts school, but it doesn't seem to be that. It looks more like an advance guard to properly establish power in the Shandong region. Now I asked the most important question. It was also what I wanted to know the most. Is this Ma Jongsu's will? Or Ma Bongi's will? At my direct question, the man hesitated for a moment. Then he said, "We couldn't find out that far." From that hesitation, I could tell. He was being very cautious because it was related to the alliance leader. It was still early in his term, and it wasn't clear how Ma Bongi would run the martial world. I thought that even if he had found out something, he might not tell me. Lastly, who are the masters who came with them? He told me about the Flower Fan Elder and Saigon. But he didn't know about that woman. We couldn't find out anything about her. In other words, she was a woman who hadn't even been caught in the Omniscient Association's information network. If so, she's definitely not from within the Heavenly Blade sect. And since I know all the important figures, she's not from the Martial Righteous Alliance either. Just where could this woman be from? This is all our association has found out. If we discover anything additional, we'll contact you again. I understand. Thank you for your hard work. After leaving the information broker, I pulled down my wide-brimmed hat and slowly walked away. Yes, there's no need to rush. It's about finding weaknesses to cut off the bastard's lifeline one by one. There was an advantage for me. The bastard is exposed, while I'm hidden in the shadows. The money he extorted from each sect alone is tens of thousands of taels. On top of that, there's the money he brought with him. If he came to establish a foundation here, enormous funds will be mobilized. He couldn't have raised all that money from the sects in Shandong. Thinking about it that way made my mouth water. The stronger and more troublesome to deal with, the more flesh there is to feast on, isn't it? I'll suck out even the marrow and grind the bones to drink. Chapter 41, How to Avoid the Wind, 1. Huang Chong, 1, the leader of the Western Blade sect, 2, was more tense than ever as he entered the corridor leading to the guest room. The person he was scheduled to meet today in this guest room of the young minor faction was none other than Ma Jongsu. Ma Jongsu had sent someone to secretly request a meeting. The Western Blade sect ranked 6th in Shandong. Of course, Huang Chang had attended the previous gathering. He was also one of the leaders who were quite displeased with Ma Jongsu's recent behavior. This was how he viewed Ma Jongsu. A brat trying to borrow the tiger's might, 3, by riding on his father's influence. Such a green youngster? But he couldn't show such feelings at all. The Heavenly Blade sect alone was an entity he couldn't handle, and now Ma Jongsu had even become the bloodline of the Martial Righteous Alliance leader. Guided by a servant, he entered the appointed guest room. Ma Jongsu was waiting alone, drinking alcohol. He stood up to greet Huang Chong. "Oh. Welcome, sect leader Huang. Master Ma, I'm glad you called for me." Although Ma Jongsu was far too young and lacking in fame to be called a master, it couldn't be helped. Unexpectedly, Ma Jongsu waved his hand and said, "Master? That's too much. Please treat me as your junior." "Ha ha, that's not possible. No, when you killed the red-haired demon, I wasn't even born yet. Please feel free to treat me casually." Huang Chong was surprised by those words. "You know about me killing the red-haired demon, 4. It was an incident from 30 years ago, during his youth. At that time, an evil sect master with red hair was causing trouble around Shandong. In his youthful vigor, he had boldly stepped forward and killed the man after 1,000 exchanges." "Yes, I know about it." Ma Jongsu knew the details about it. "I heard the story from my uncle long ago and have held you in high esteem since then." "When you say uncle, he's known as the Thunder Striker, 5, in the martial world." "Oh. You mean Master Ma Chunyan, 6, the Thunder Striker?" "I'm well aware of Master Ma's great reputation. The Thunder Striker, Ma Chunyan, was a very famous expert in the Heavenly Blade sect. He was undoubtedly one of the top 5 experts within the Heavenly Blade sect." "Did he know about me?" "Yes, he definitely knew about you, and he even taught me that I should become an excellent person like sect leader Huang." Ah. Huang Chong was secretly pleased. Although it was impossible to verify whether it was true or not, Ma Zhongsu knew about an incident that had occurred before he was even born. Moreover, given the mention of the Thunder Striker, it didn't seem like a made-up story. While half in doubt, he wanted to believe it. Among all the people I wanted to meet personally when I came down to Shandong this time, sect leader Huang was at the top of my list. Ah, is that so? Although he felt these words might be intentional, they were too sweet. Wouldn't this soft approach be better than a stiff and arrogant attitude anyway? It didn't seem like he was just trying to make a good impression by saying nice things. There was no reason for him to do so, and could Ma Zhongsu, who was barely 25, act so naturally? Here, please accept my drink. Ma Zhongsu poured the drink with a respectful attitude. The bad first impression from the other day had already changed for the better. Thank you for the money you sent last time. It was only right to help you. Rather, I received the precious gift you sent well. Of course, I should return it. If my father finds out, I'll be in big trouble. After Ma Chunyan, this time Ma Bongi was mentioned. Although it came out naturally, Huang Chong felt inwardly intimidated and couldn't help but be influenced by it. I'm planning to do several things in the future. Please help me a bit. Our sect will help with all sincerity. To be honest, I'm thinking of joining hands with only a few sects in Shandong. If too many sects get involved, it will only lead to gossip. Huang Chong could tell that he was one of those sects. Thank you for taking care of me to this extent. Because the first impression had been so bad, this kindness felt even greater. Please don't forget. You are the person I respect the most, sect leader Huang. You're too kind. The two clinked their cups. After half an hour of drinking, Huang Chong left. His feelings were quite different when he left compared to when he entered. Ma Zhongsu, who was left alone finishing the alcohol, had also changed. That cold, settled face was completely different from when Huang Chong was present. The door opened, and Flower Fan Elder and Saigon entered. Flower Fan Elder smiled and said, "You did well." Ma Zhongsu twisted his lips in a mocking smile. Dealing with these country bumpkins is as easy as eating cold porridge. Still, you shouldn't let your guard down. Don't worry. I never let my guard down. Flower Fan Elder was about to say something but stopped. A person who truly never lets their guard down would never use the phrase "let my guard down." But he thought there was no need to nag when things were going well. Everything is progressing smoothly, so it's time to move on to the next stage. At that, Ma Zhongsu's eyes sparkled. I'll finally be able to see her. I hear she's called the most beautiful woman in Shandong. Flower Fan Elder made a slightly uncomfortable expression. You could ruin everything because of a mere woman. Blood doesn't lie. Ma Zhongsu, like his father, was a man of great lust. It's not just any woman, but the most beautiful one in Shandong, isn't it? Please don't take my words lightly. Flower Fan Elder glanced at Saigon. It was a look asking him to add a word, but Saigon stood silently, pretending not to see or hear. Leave the woman issue to me, and just send out the invitations to each faction. All right. By the way, where is our mysterious woman? I saw her outside earlier. Ma Zhongsu walked to the window. The woman visible in the distance was the same one who had entered the main hall with Ma Zhongsu at the previous gathering. She was standing in the back garden, looking down at the pond. Have you found out anything about that woman? Not yet. Damn it. She was a woman his father had sent along when he came down this time. He didn't even explain whether she was sent to monitor him or to help him. He had tried to find out about her secretly on his own, but it wasn't easy. Ma Zhongsu muttered while looking at her. Where the hell did you come from, woman? I returned home for now. There was no point in wandering around the young minor faction and potentially running into them without a plan in place. Moreover, I was wearing the human skin mask. Although it was a high-grade mask and they probably wouldn't recognize me, it was still better to be cautious. I participated in the training of the Sword Division members, and I also devoted myself to practice. The more troubled you are, the more you need to focus and work hard. What any situation demands is not worry, but a solution. Because I acted as usual, no one noticed, but there was one exception. Young master, do you have something on your mind? Guangdu sensed my psychological state like a ghost. I found someone I want to kill. Gasp! Startled, Guangdu cautiously asked. Who is this poor fellow? He's about 25 years old, and he's protected by some formidable experts. At that, Guangdu flinched in surprise. Could it be me? I chuckled, and Guangdu laughed along. His effort to lighten my mood even for a moment was admirable. How are things going with Du Soon? Well. Guangdu sighed. It seemed things weren't going well. I mustered up the courage to ask her out for tea at Daru establishment on her day off. And? She said she's too busy these days. I see. Actually, no matter how busy she is, if she liked me, she could make time for a cup of tea, right? Right. I nodded firmly, and Guangdu pouted. Aren't you agreeing too easily? At times like this, you should say something like she might really be busy or maybe she was too shy and that's why she refused. No. Whether it's a man or a woman, if they like someone, they always make time. You wouldn't see her if you were busy. Guangdu's face fell. That's how it is, right? I'm sorry, but that's how it is. HMPH. I'll get my revenge. I'll improve my martial arts, make a lot of money. I'll become so successful that she'll kneel before me and beg for forgiveness. She'll say, please forgive me. And I'll snort and say, it's too late, get lost. When I didn't react, Guangdu asked, why aren't you saying anything? Don't you find it satisfying? After a moment, I said, it would be satisfying to see the woman you truly loved crying and regretting. Guangdu quietly imagined the scene, then lowered his head. Sob. It's sad and pitiful just thinking about it. Yes, not everyone can take revenge. Guangdu, they say first loves often don't work out, right? Cheer up. I patted Guangdu's shoulder and turned away. Belatedly, Guangdu shouted. I told you this isn't my first love. Really, it's not. I'm a well-worn guy, you know. The next day, unexpected news arrived. Ma Zhongsu is hosting a banquet and inviting the young masters of the later generations. An invitation has come for you too. This bastard, he's really pushing things relentlessly. I could immediately grasp his intention. What's the biggest weakness of not only the leaders of various sects in Shandong but also people in general? It's their children. He's also around the same age. If he can naturally mingle with the young masters of the later generations and win them over, it will be easier for him to manipulate Shandong in the future. Now I could be certain. He didn't come down here just to extort some money. He came down to properly feast on Shandong. The next moment, one person's face came to mind. Song Warren. Would he not have heard the rumor that Song Warren had returned and was being called the most beautiful woman in Shandong? Even if he hasn't seen her yet, would he just let it be when he does? Blood doesn't lie, and there was a possibility that he might be a womanizer like his father. If he grew up following what he saw, it was more than likely. Even if that's not the case, he might have the audacious thought of offering Song Warren to his father. Because he's been pushed aside in the succession line, he might try anything to become the successor. The guy I saw that day was capable of both possibilities. Considering my relationship with Song Wugayong and his daughter, I absolutely couldn't let Song Warren fall into such a dirty situation. How do I handle this? Song Warren was dreaming of that day. The day when Byok Ridan came drunk and caused trouble. You think that pretty face will last forever? You'll get all wrinkled when you get old too. So stop acting so high and mighty. Just go back. No. I can't leave like this. Byok Ridan rushed towards her. As he tried to forcibly embrace her, Song Warren pushed him back. Staggering from the alcohol, he fell backwards. I said go back. Come back when you're sober. You pushed me? Fuck. You just pushed me. Byok Ridan got up abruptly and charged again. This time, Song Warren didn't push him but grabbed his collar. The smell of alcohol was terrible, and madness created by the alcohol flowed from his bloodshot eyes. Do you want those guys lurking outside to see you? Is that why you're trying to send me away? Nonsense. What do you take me for? Her grip on his collar tightened. Byok Ridan sneered and said, You think you can look down on me just because you learned some martial arts? She sighed and released his collar. Byok Ridan shouted again. You're mine, you've been mine since you were in the womb. Don't be ridiculous. I'm not yours. Byok Ridan said with a suspicious look. Did you find someone else? Is that it? You bitch! Thwack! 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 Unable to hold back, Song Warren's fists flew in succession. They were punches without inner force, but the drunk Byok Ridan lost his balance and fell backwards. This was where the events of that day ended. Originally, Guangdu would have rushed in and carried Byok Ridan home on his back. But today's dream progressed differently from that day. Byok Ridan, lying on the floor, said, "You think people never change?" It was an incredibly calm voice. Slowly rising to his feet, Byok Ridan was no longer the Byok Ridan from moments ago. With a composed gaze and calm tone, it was the recent Byok Ridan. No, there's nothing that changes as easily as people. The moment their eyes met with Byok Ridan's calm gaze. Gasp! With a short scream, Song Warren woke up from her sleep. Her body was drenched in sweat. From outside, the voice of her guard, Suran, was heard. "Miss! Are you all right?" "I'm fine." She got up from the bed and walked to a side table. She poured cold tea from the teapot and drank it. Phew! She sighed and looked out the window. The day had already dawned. I'm coming in." Without waiting for a response, Suran entered. "Miss?" Suran asked with a worried expression. "Did you have the same dream again today?" Song Warren had been having recurring nightmares since she first returned. "No, today was a different dream." "What kind of dream was it?" Just like with the previous nightmares, Song Warren didn't tell her about this one either. "Don't worry too much. It's because I've relaxed after coming home after a long time." Song Warren always said the same thing. Suran looked at Song Warren with concern. It didn't make sense to have nightmares because of relaxation. Moreover, it had been almost 6 months since she returned home. "Miss, why don't we see a doctor?" I said I'm fine. Just then, a maid came to report. "Young Master Byok has come to visit." Song Warren was surprised. "Young Master Byok at this early hour? Has he come to see father?" Then the maid conveyed unexpected words. "No. He says he wants to see you quietly, miss." Chapter 42, How to Avoid the Wind, 2. I was waiting for her in the guest hall. Normally, I should have greeted Song Woo-gyeong first, but I didn't do that today. About half an hour after I arrived, Song Warren entered the room with a slightly surprised expression. "You came to see me?" She smelled nice, as if she had just washed. When I saw her in spring, she was like a spring flower, but now she was like the autumn sky. "Shall we go out for a walk?" After staring at me for a moment, she nodded. We went outside together and strolled through the back garden. There was no one around as it was still early. "Have you been well?" She answered my question. "Training, and more training. Just a repetition of such days." "How about you?" "I'm similar. I heard about the small sword division. They defeated the beast division. We were lucky." "Is that really so?" She stared at me intently. She had now fully accepted my change. "Why did you act like a scoundrel? Did you want to break off our engagement?" I thought that from her perspective, she might think this way. I wasn't acting like a scoundrel, I was a scoundrel then. "And you changed after I hit you?" "Yes." "You expect me to really believe that?" "You have to believe it. Because it's the truth." She stared at me and let out a light sigh. "I don't know what to think anymore. There's one thing I don't know either." "What is it?" "You said before, remember? That you had a reason for disliking the previous alliance leader." She chuckled. "You're asking again. Are you that curious?" "Yes, I'm curious." "Why are you so curious?" "You have no connection to the alliance leader, right?" It was difficult to find a rational answer that would make her understand. I was about to say that I had always respected him, but instead, I gave a reason that suddenly came to mind. "There's no particular reason. You know how it is? Once you're curious about something, you keep getting more curious. It's like I suddenly got fixated on it." She chuckled. It was a laugh I hadn't seen in a long time. Or was it the first time? Anyway, this answer seemed better than saying I respected him or something like that. "It's not such a grand reason. I should have just told you earlier. It's fine now too." She revealed her reason. There's someone I dislike. That person really respected the previous alliance leader. Almost like a god. Because someone I disliked liked him so much, I ended up disliking him too. It's a silly reason, isn't it? Who's the person you dislike? A slight shadow crossed her face. It seemed she had her own circumstances. Let's just leave it at that. All right, that's enough. Thank you for telling me. There's nothing to thank me for such a small thing. But why did you come to see me? I guarantee that when she hears what I'm about to say, she'll be really surprised. I threw out words that were completely opposite to the good atmosphere we had until now. I came to challenge you to a duel. What? Song Warren's eyes widened. It was the first time I'd seen her so surprised since meeting her. Let's have a match. She stared blankly for a moment before asking with a disbelieving expression. Are you serious? I am serious. Why? Revenge for that day. Song Warren stared at me blankly. The last thing she said to me when we parted before was that she couldn't understand me. But now I've come back and asked for a duel, so her confusion must be beyond words. Really, you? She seemed to be trying hard to understand me somehow. But she absolutely won't be able to understand. If I were her, I wouldn't either. She bit her lip slightly and agreed to the duel. All right, let's do it. We faced each other in the training ground. From a distance, Suran watched this sudden situation with worry. I don't know what your intention is, but if we're going to duel, let's do it properly. That's exactly what I want. With real swords? When I nodded, she flinched in surprise. She had asked just in case, but I had agreed to it. A duel with real swords could lead to serious injury or even death if something went wrong. Moreover, this was our first duel. We had no idea what kind of swordsmanship the other used. It was natural for her to be tense. If I was still the scoundrel from before, she would never have agreed. But now, for some reason, she felt it might be okay. All right. But don't get excited. Absolutely not. I nodded at her warning. I understand. She slowly drew her sword. I also drew my sword and slowly approached. Swish! She lightly leaped forward and thrust her sword. It was a kind of probing attack. Clang! I lightly swung my sword to deflect it. Again, the two swords clashed in the air. Clang! 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 It was a light exchange of offense and defense. There was no need to rush in as if to kill from the start. As I expected, her skill was considerable. Her footwork was nimble, and her techniques were sharp. The swordsmanship seemed familiar, perhaps the master who taught her was someone I knew. Clang! 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 We gradually increased the speed while repeating offense and defense. She might not realize it, but I was naturally drawing her into my pace. Since a single mistake could lead to a serious injury, I thoroughly controlled the entire duel from beginning to end. I pushed her back, then was pushed back in turn. A risky attack led to a relaxed defense, and that relaxation turned into breathtaking danger again. Under my meticulous calculation, she swung her sword frantically. I pushed her to her limit. She wouldn't even have time to think about how strong I had become. This was probably her first duel like this. Finally, when I judged that she had reached her limit, my sword, dodging her attack and diving in, flew towards her neck. She tried to block it, but it was already too late. Ah! If it had continued, her neck would have been cut off, but my sword changed direction. Thud! The sword handle struck her shoulder. Ooh! She staggered and swung her sword again to block the following attack. Thud! 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 My fist struck her stomach and sides in succession, and the last two blows flew towards her face. Miss! When the startled Suran ran over, Song Warren had already fallen to the ground. Suran hurriedly checked on Song Warren. Fortunately, she was still conscious. Suran shouted angrily. Are you crazy? How could you do this? It was a fair duel. You're not saying we should go easy on her because she's a woman, are you? At my words, Suran frowned but couldn't argue back. I knew Suran was very angry, but I added one more thing. It was something I had to say, even if I didn't want to. This is revenge for the beating I took last time. Su Ran's face contorted even more. She looked like she wanted to rush at me right then. At that moment, Song Warren grabbed her arm. When Su Ran turned to look, Song Warren shook her head. It meant not to do it. I lost. Anne? She looked at me with half-open eyes while lying on the ground. It wasn't a resentful gaze. That last technique. Thankfully, she noticed. I nodded with a meaningful smile. I hadn't just hit her to win. While fighting, I noticed that her swordsmanship had a fatal weakness. And it was in her most important technique. I had properly broken through it and attacked. If she doesn't realize on her own that there's a fatal weakness in her technique, she might die someday to an enemy who sees through this weakness. Song Warren had felt it in my attack just now. How her technique, which she thought was perfect, was helplessly broken through. That it wasn't just bad luck that she got hit. Later. She lost consciousness before finishing her words. Was she going to say let's fight again? Or something else? Su Ran carried her on her back and ran into the house. The sky might seem like it's falling, but there's no need to worry. I knew exactly how hard to hit. She'll need to stay in bed for at least 10 days, and her face will be swollen and look terrible for a while. But she'll recover and get up without any problems. Did I come for this duel to give her practical experience and show her the weakness in her technique? Of course not. This duel was entirely because of Ma Zhongsu. Judging by the way he handles things, if I made a flimsy excuse and didn't attend the banquet, he might come directly to the Song clan home the next day. Now, even if he comes, he won't be able to try anything when he sees her in this condition. If he still tries to make a move despite her being in this state, then I'll find a way to get rid of him without thinking about the consequences. Whether the entire Heavenly Blade sect comes rushing to Shandong or not, I'll deal with that when the time comes. Actually, the first method I thought of was to go to Song Wugaiong, tell him honestly, and have her evacuated far away. But I thought she might refuse to go, and even if she did go, she might be in more danger out of my reach. He could send people to find out where she went. Even if I gave another reason for not attending, he might persistently dig into it and find out it was a lie. But if she's really injured and bedridden like this, even he won't be able to do anything. The reason for the duel was also sufficient. Although I've come to my senses now, I was a former scoundrel taking revenge for being beaten before. Anyway, I bought time in the best way I could. I felt sorry for her and for Song Wugaiong because it was such a poor strategy. But within the given time, I couldn't find a better strategy. I wasn't Gal Sariang, after all. Of course, all these worries might just be groundless. He might have no ulterior motives or interest in Song Warren at all. I'm just preparing. When dealing with evil people, I always prepare and prepare again. The damage from not being careful in advance would be far greater and more fatal compared to this effort. I returned straight home. There was one more thing I had to take care of before going to the banquet. If my goal was to kill Ma Zhongsu, this task would be a bit easier. No matter how difficult the opponent, it was in the area I was best at. But taking what he had was certainly more difficult than that. After always having Gal Sariang handle complicated and difficult tasks, trying to handle it myself made me sweat. Still, I'll manage it. He came to us, took our money, and swaggered about, so I have to pay him back in kind. I'm certain that messing with his money will be far more effective than killing one of the 3 who came with him. When the money disappears, they'll be bewildered. Internal divisions and cracks will appear. That's the power of money. A devilish power that can ultimately separate even the closest of people. The question is, where is the money being kept, and who is managing it? Ma Zhongsu? Flower Fan Elder? Saigun? That mysterious woman? First, I ruled out Flower Fan Elder. Not only was he old, but he was also an outsider. Ma Zhongsu wouldn't have entrusted the money to an outsider. For the same reason, if we exclude the mysterious woman, then could it be Saigun? Although it was a friendly competition, he was a martial artist representing the Heavenly Blade sect. He's the typical martial artist. He doesn't seem to have much to do with managing money, does he? Then is Ma Zhongsu managing it directly? That seemed the most likely possibility. Guangdu came running to my room at my call. You called for me. There's something I need to find out. Seeing my serious expression, Guangdu tensed up. What is it? You've heard too, right? That the blood relative of the Heavenly Blade sect leader is down here in Shandong. Of course. The guy lowered his voice, looking around. I heard he extorted money from the sect leaders of Shandong. I also lowered my voice and asked, "This is my room, why are we whispering?" Then Guangdu whispered, "What if it reaches that guy's ears? It would be a big deal, right? He's the bloodline of the Martial Righteous Alliance leader, and the Heavenly Blade sect is one of the 5 great sects of the Central Plains. Then you're in big trouble." "Why?" "Because you have to go investigate those guys right now." Guangdu blinked and looked at me. As I always say, I really like Guangdu's expression at times like this. "You're serious?" Originally, the best way to forget about woman problems is through work. I might be able to forget about 100 women, but... I chuckled and raised my voice again. "It's nothing serious, so relax." Putting aside the playfulness, Guangdu asked seriously, "What do I need to do?" He's planning to build a martial arts school in Jinan. You go to Jinan right now and find out everything related to that. Where it's being built, who's in charge of the construction, when it starts, find out everything you can. There must be things we need to know besides what he told us. I told Guangdu about what Ma Zhongsu had said about establishing the martial arts school during the first gathering. And I gave him 2,000 taels separately, telling him to use it if he needed money. This much. If you need to use it, don't hesitate, just use it without question. Yes. And you need to return as quickly as possible. Understood. When it comes to blending in with people and finding things out, I can trust Guangdu. His innate likability is natural. Moreover, he had an instinctive cleverness for avoiding danger. Feeling a bit reluctant to just send him off, I jokingly said, "Should I send Du Soon with you?" "No." It was an unexpectedly firm rejection without hesitation. "Why?" "Have you already moved on?" "No. My heart still pounds and hurts every time I see her." "Then why?" "I can't let what little affection she might have left for me disappear completely. It might be a love I never really got to start properly, but I don't want it to end miserably." I nodded, saying it was a wise thought. "Well, I'll be going then." "Go on horseback." Guangdu's eye sparkled as he said, "Yes, this time I'll return as a master of horsemanship, no, as a centaur." After sending Guangdu off, I left the house heading towards the young minor faction where the banquet was being held. There are many reasons why I dislike banquets, but here's another one. Banquets make people let their guard down. Knowing this, I'll make efforts to turn this banquet into a golden opportunity for me. Now, I'm doing my best like this, but what about you?